Brilliant. Hopefully some of you may have heard my colleague Sam Whitmore's kind of introduction to the Place Standard tool at the morning session yesterday. He is one of the several partners behind the Place Standard tool, and as I mentioned, I'm part of the Planning and Architecture Division of Scottish Government. But just next slide, please, just in case you missed Sam yesterday. The Place Standard tool, in short, is a simple and comprehensive discussion tool that you can use to have a structured conversation about a place. We're taking that place evaluation a little bit further to delve into more depth. And you can use it to speak to those that matter in a place, the people that live there, the adults, the children, the young people, and or also the people who provide the services and who make the decisions about a place. And you use it to identify priorities for action. Next slide, please. So the content is based on the evidence about how places impact on people's health and well-being. And next slide. There is a lot of evidence also, particularly about the impact of places on people, on children and young people. And the tool, we can move on from this because the tool takes all that complex evidence and turns it into 14 really simple questions in everyday language. And next slide, please. In fact, one of the drivers that led to the development of the tool was actually a strategy on child health that led to the development and the launch of the tool in 2015. So Sam will probably already have mentioned, since it was launched, it has been really successfully used across Scotland, particularly for community consultation, and also beyond Scotland because it's been really popular and picked up internationally. Next slide. It's proven to be a simple yet versatile tool that provides that structure to have a constructive conversation about a place using shared language to generate an understanding of the issues in the place that you can use to drive action, to improve the places and to address health inequalities. And we already know that, as well as with adults, it's been used very successfully in many places with children and young people. Next slide. Here's an early example from where City of Edinburgh used it with the general population and school children in South Queensferry. And they found some key differences in adult and school children responses. The school children are the ones on the outside. Next slide. And it highlights just how important that is, that young people's voices are also heard in these conversations. Next slide. So the action is taken to address their particular issues, and action was taken on the back of what they found. And of course, Green Space Scotland has already been using the Place Standard tool very successfully as part of their Young Place Changers, and they've adapted it in really creative and engaging ways. Next slide. However, we knew that the majority of instances where it was being used with children and young people, it was by people who were either confident facilitators or youth workers, or who knew the Place Standard really well and felt able just to adapt it as they went along. And the implementation group wanted to have something that could be picked up and used off the shelf by anyone to engage with children and young people. So there was no excuse not to have a conversation with them and use it in the same way as the mainstream tool, in person or digitally, and to try and make sure that children and young people's voices are heard in decision making, realizing children's rights. So especially almost 2 years ago that we went ahead with a commission to create 2 new versions for children and for young people. And the brief we set was pretty challenging, and it was potentially conflicting because we were asking for the new versions to be co-created with children and young people, but also to be aligned with the adult or mainstream version. so that you could produce outputs that were equivalent and easy to compare with a population-wide survey. Next slide. The consortium that we appointed, Play Scotland and A Place in Childhood, took on the challenge, and they used a mapping technique with groups of children and young people to explore their places, work out what they liked and the issues that were important to them, and then plotted that back to the place standard themes to generate the questions that would best enable those children to articulate what was important about a place and what action was needed. And working from what was the original place standard tool, we delivered those drafts in March 2020. And then we had the small matter of a major pandemic and all work ceased in the face of conflicting priorities. Next slide. In the meantime, as Sam will probably have mentioned yesterday, in a process that was running parallel to this, we finalised a new draft of the mainstream placemat standard tool, which was set out to address some of the key gaps that had been identified, such as climate change, digital inclusion, and lifelong learning. And then also in the latter stages, responding to some of the learning from lockdown and COVID-19. So, given that one of our key objectives was that the children and young people's versions align with the mainstream one, we still have some work to do and probably a little bit more testing and piloting to finalise those early drafts to align with the Place Standard 2.0. Next slide. So in the recent months, we've again started to pick up the drafts, and over the next few months, once the delivery of our new Play website and the new online version of the mainstream tool are out of the way, we're looking to work with the Play Standard implementation partners and other partners to finish finessing the content of the children and the young people versions. We'll also be looking at the design and the presentation so that they're really easy to use and supported by detailed guidance, not only on how to use them, but also how they link to bigger picture policy like curriculum for excellence, getting it right for every child, and children's rights. All things being well, we're looking to unleash these new versions later this year. This is a landmark year for children's rights, with the decision in March to adopt them, and we see them having a really strong role in supporting the realisation of those rights. So watch this space. And in the meantime, the current version of the tool is already in the Young Place Changers toolkit, and we are definitely going to continue to work with Green Space Scotland to ensure that the toolkit is up to date with all the developments as they emerge. Should we go on to the next slide? And the tool as it is still really simple to use. This is the current online version. Next slide. But it's very, very flexible. There are lots of creative, interactive ways to present the questions and to play around with the themes. This slide includes some playful examples from Green Space Scotland's work with young people. Next slide. And even in COVID times, it's still being adapted and used in socially distanced ways. And I think one of the lessons to learn is that it's really important to adapt the way you use it to the communication styles and the needs of the people that you're working with. Next slide. Anyway, however you present it, it's very simple. You work through each theme question, you give it a score, you note the reasons for the score, both positive and negative, and plot the results on this circular diagram. That happens automatically if you're using it online. Next slide. And then you get this visual output, something like this, which is our famous spider diagram. The low scores are in the middle, the high scores are towards the edge. Next slide. and you can easily pinpoint what might be the priorities for action. And with this visual output, it's very easy to quickly compare results from different places or for different population groups. And behind the scores, you have the discussion recorded. I'm realizing I'm pointing at the screen, which is pointless. But anyway, the reasons are recorded, and that's the real richness in the tool. With a large group survey, you can end up with masses of data, and it can take a lot longer than you expected to analyze. Next slide. And from that, you can generate the priorities to drive action to create a better place with improved well-being for the community. Next slide, or final slide. So that is a whistle-stop tour to the tool. There's lots of online resources which complement the Young Place Changers Toolkit. Here are a couple on this slide, and we'll make sure that they're in there. And we definitely encourage you to try it out and keep an eye out for updates and opportunities to test the new resources when they're ready. Thank you.